Chris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War. I'm on the Franklin battlefield with Greg Wade, founder of the Franklin Civil War Roundtable, and he's showing us around today the battlefield. And this is really just a gem and the crown jewel of preservation stories, I think, Greg. Tell us a little bit about where we're at right now and what we're looking at and what you guys did to save this particular spot.
Well, Chris, it's a long story as we've been talking, but where we are standing is considered the epicenter of the Battle of Franklin. This is the Carter House farm behind us, and it was out here on the Franklin Pike where the Federals actually were broken. The line was broken by the Confederate troops under Pat Claiborne and General John Bell Hood. The fighting in this area was intense. Some of the people who fought right here were Douglas MacArthur's father. Arthur MacArthur fought right here. Ironically, his future wife's grandfather fought for the Confederates right here, yeah. So who knows, if they'd been right there with each other. But this was very intense, and the line was actually broken here at one point. Up until about 2005, most of the Franklin battlefield had been built upon. Right. Franklin's kind of a boom town. Many of the locals in the area did not want to preserve the property. When the war was over, Franklin had been fought over. The county had over 200 fights and skirmishes, so they were sick of the Civil War by that time. Actually, there were 3 battles of Franklin, this being the biggest. So there was no effort really amongst most of the locals to preserve the field. Although there were numerous attempts to make a national battlefield here, they couldn't get local support. Right. So long story short, it got built on. A lot of World War II era houses were here. And where we're standing was a florist shop until about 2 years ago. If you look behind me here, you could not see this house because of a building standing here. And if you'll notice, you can see pot marks into this house from the fighting. This was the actual Carter House farm office, and that was part of the farm office as well. 2 of the most damaged buildings still standing from the American Civil War. So the fighting, as you can see, was very intense. But we almost lost it, and very fortunate that we've been able to reclaim a lot of the battlefield.
And you said just till a couple years ago, you couldn't even really see this part of the buildings because this area here, and let me swing it around, this was a store, a flower shop.
Flower shop, office building, another little house next door. We couldn't be this close to, we'd be standing where there was a building right now. Over the last 15 years, we've saved about 25 acres here at this immediate area and another 118 acres over on the eastern flank, or the Confederate right flank, that we'll talk about later. But just over across the street here was a strip center, Domino's Pizza, a Pizza Hut. When we raised money, we gave everybody pizzas.
The famous Pizza Hut.
The famous Pizza Hut where Claiborne was supposedly killed. So right behind us here was occupied, and we were successful through the efforts of a lot of organizations, including the American Battlefield Trust nationally, and a lot of local organizations, to save this property.
And this was not a cheap preservation project.
No, you're looking at a piece of property here that was almost $3 million. And then we had to go through the issues of moving the buildings themselves, doing archaeological studies, all kinds of things to satisfy grant requirements.
So this, just for folks at home trying to get a sense of the size of this, how big is this piece of property that was $2.8 million?
It's about 2 acres.
Yeah, 2 acres. That's a pricey 2 acres. Yeah. But it has really transformed this section of the battlefield.
It has. Yeah. And for those who have come to Franklin and said they wouldn't come back because there's nothing to see, give us a chance now, because we've opened this thing back up. Richard Lighthizer of the American Battlefield Trust referred to this as the greatest story in American battlefield preservation, and they've been a big part of it as well.
Yeah. So there's a nice park across the street there behind me in that direction, the Claiborne Monument off in that direction, and of course Carton Plantation has a really nice walking trail out there. We're going to see some of these other places as Greg takes us around and tours us through the battlefield today. Greg, what a fantastic success story.
It's been fun being a part of it. It hasn't always been easy. We've signed for property when we didn't have a nickel in the bank, But there are a lot of people here with a lot of dedication and skills that made it happen. And I just kind of push the lawnmower, if you will. So,
well, we're going to see some more of the property that he's lawn mowing. He's going to be kind enough to show us around the battlefield today. So we'll have more videos coming up. Greg Wade, Chris Mackowski for Emerging Civil War. Thanks for being with us.